This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of Phatts TV, sanctioned by PA Phatts and the non-genetically proven Sun. Any and all words have been authorized during the show. There is nothing off limits. Nobody is restricted from watching or participating in the show. It is a free-for-all. Commencing at the siren, any and all discussions will be legal for an extended period of time. Sports, politics, and any and all controversial topics will be talked about. You have been warned. May God be with us all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Phatts TV on this Thursday night, May the 20th. Coming to you live from Phatts Studio A in Berks County, Pennsylvania. Coming to you live from Studio Phatts B in the heart of Center County, Pennsylvania. Deep in his underground bunker, although it's kind of light in his underground bunker up there. That is the non-genetically proven Sun. How's it going?
What's up?
Good to see you finally got a haircut.
Hey. Took about 10 minutes to cut.
Yeah. I gotta get one before championship weekend comes in a couple weeks. So, figured we were gonna take the week off to relax, to ease into things. And then you guys did something stupid. It's basically the only thing we're going to talk about tonight because I was enjoying vacation, so I don't want to do a terribly long show. And the message board is open. Please message tonight. If you are ever going to message on any night, please tonight. So I want to start off with a little game tonight. And I posted this on my Facebook, my personal Facebook page today. For you people in NEPA, Northeastern Pennsylvania, NEPA. What is the first thing you think of when you hear the name Marty Flynn? If you don't know who Marty Flynn is, he's a state representative for Southern Lackawanna County, Northern Luzerne County, and I believe the eastern part of Monroe County, maybe? For you people who are not from NEPA, you're going to play the same game. Tell me what you think of the first thing you think of when you hear the name Maxine Waters, congressional representative for the United States Congress out of California. So I'll give that a little bit of time to let you guys message. Hopefully some of you actually message. I'm really interested to know what you NEPA people think of Marty Flynn. So anyway, while we're waiting for people to message, kind of warm out. Is it warm out up there?
Yeah, it was like 90.
Yeah. It's like, as usual, around here we get about 2 weeks of spring. Then we go right into summer. By the way, for those of you who haven't joined us in a while that may be joining us tonight, that's a really nice Phatts TV flag that's over your left shoulder, right shoulder by the... if we're looking right at you. Pretty good looking. Probably need to zoom in on anybody. So anyway, Tom Yo says, I swim. Christine says, the mouth. Okay.
Guessing she's referring to Maxine Waters.
I'm assuming, because I know she doesn't know who Marty Flynn is. At least I would assume she doesn't know who Marty Flynn is. Do I have any...
Maxine Waters is she threatened all of us people that are Trump supporters.
Yes. Do I have any of my NEPA people watching me tonight? Some of you said you'd watch.
NEPA.
So, for those of you who don't know who Marty Flynn is, as I said, he's a state representative. You long-time watchers of the show. So, I Swim was supposed to be crazy?
I don't know how crazy autocorrects the I swim, but okay.
Okay. So, you guys all know the derogatory term that I like that starts with the letter C and rhymes with hunt. Well, if you look up Marty Flynn in the dictionary, or if you look up that word that begins with a C and rhymes with hunt in a dictionary, you will see a picture of Marty Flynn. Marty Flynn is probably about the worst congressman I know. If you go onto his Facebook page, his personal Facebook page, he actually challenges people to fight him, to meet him on the streets of Scranton and fight him. The guy... What?
Flynn is Wolf's offspring.
Pretty much. The guy, again, on his Facebook page, trashed my hometown. Trashed it. Now, whether it deserves to be trashed or not is neither here nor there. As a state representative, you should be not trashing a town in the state you represent. So, I just want you people to realize who Marty Flynn is, that he's a representative to the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives. So, we had this election Tuesday night. It was our primary. We have it every year at this time, except for last year when we had COVID, blah, 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 it got pushed back, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Well, there was a couple ballot questions on the ballot. By the way, did you vote, non-genetically proven son?
I did.
Very good. Very good. Turn your mic up or something. You're not coming in there. So,
better?
Yes. So, it's good that you voted. I specifically want to talk about how old is this guy. I'd say he's probably younger than me. Look up Marty Flynn and see how old he is. I hope you know how to spell Marty.
We're going to see.
I'd say he's probably in his early 40s, maybe?
45.
45. So a little younger than me. So I
It looks like he was a jock and or a frat boy.
Yes. Asshole. A male hunt. So, I want to talk about ballot question number 1 on it.
Okay.
And I want to read to you exactly what ballot question number 1 said. Now, I voted Tuesday, but I went late. I had to work late. I was really busy all day. And I knew how I wanted to vote because I was drinking all the Kool-Aid that I was seeing on Facebook. So then I decided to actually read these things before I went and voted. Now, non-genetically proven son, before I start reading, how did you vote on ballot question number 1? If it's none of our business, just say it's none of your business.
Yes.
Yes, it's none of our business? Or you voted yes?
Yes, I voted yes.
Okay, you voted yes. Okay.
But I will say, didn't really read the questions.
Okay, you just drank the Kool-Aid of what was on Facebook.
Pretty much. I read them. Didn't really care. Just kind of knew what they were about. That was about it.
Okay. Still don't know why you're not coming in too good.
I don't know.
I think it's the speaker isn't set up quite right or something. It's on though. I made sure it's on. It's on my end. It's you're coming out of the wrong speaker. But anyway, you're not talking much tonight anyway. So, now you just muted yourself. Unmute yourself. All right.
Trying to hear.
So come a little closer if you need to talk. I do not have the message board up right now, so let me know if somebody messages.
I'll put the mic in front of me then.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine right there. I want to read to you ballot question number 1, verbatim, word for word. Shall the Pennsylvania Constitution be amended to change existing law and increase the power of the General Assembly to unilaterally terminate or extend a disaster emergency declaration and the powers of the Commonwealth's agencies to address a disaster regardless of its severity pursuant to that declaration through passing a concurrent resolution by simple majority thereby removing the existing check and balance of presenting a resolution to the governor for approval or disapproval. Obviously, it was the governor's office that wrote this thing. Because there's no way if the legislature wrote it, they would have put that last sentence in there. It's the first part that's the important part. Shall the Pennsylvania Constitution be amended to change existing law and increase the power of the General Assembly to unilaterally terminate or extend a disaster emergency declaration? Okay, that's the main gist of this. Now, for those of you that live in the state of Pennsylvania, we all know what's been going on. We all know that Comrade Wolf keeps extending the disaster declaration. In fact, he did it again today. He extended it out for another 90 days. Okay. So, if you voted yes for this, it basically gave the legislature the right to terminate his disaster declaration. So let's read what the law, the state constitution says before it got changed. So Title 38 of the General Assembly, excuse the fact that I'm going blind and I really can't increase the size of this. It says, a disaster emergency shall be declared by executive order or proclamation of the governor upon finding that a disaster has occurred or that the occurrence or the threat of a disaster is imminent. Okay, fine, nothing wrong with that. The state of the threat or danger, the state of the disaster emergency shall continue until the governor finds that the threat or danger has passed or the disaster has been dealt with to the extent that emergency conditions no longer exist, and terminates the state of disaster emergency by executive order or longer than 90 days unless renewed by the governor, which he did today. The General Assembly, by concurrent resolution, may terminate a state of disaster emergency at any time. Okay. Let me read that part again. The General Assembly may, by concurrent resolution, terminate a state of a disaster emergency at any time. Okay, so reading the law, it sounds like as long as the legislature says we're ending the state of an emergency, it's over. Nope. This went in front of the state Supreme Court, if you remember, and the state Supreme Court sided with the governor on this to say, no, they can't do it. Again, you got to watch the wording in this. It says the term concurrent resolution. What does concurrent resolution mean? It's kind of like when Clinton says it depends on what the definition of is. Remember that one, Monica? So a concurrent resolution is a resolution adopted by both houses of the legislature that does not require the signature of the chief executive, that does not have the force of law. That's the important part. A concurrent resolution is a resolution adopted by both houses of the legislature that does not require the signature of the chief executive, that does not have the force of law. So it's right in the Pennsylvania Constitution that the General Assembly cannot end a emergency declaration by itself. Hence, this constitutional amendment. Okay. So, I'm sure most of you voted yes for this thing. Because we all kind of think the same. We all can't stand Comrade Wolf.
Actually, only about 54% of people that voted can't stand Comrade Wolf. Because the split wasn't nearly as big as I thought it was when I looked at it this morning.
Oh, actually, a lot of people, the experts predicted no was going to win.
Because it was only 54-46, and I actually thought it would be more like 70-30, like the other 3 and 4. Instead of going down for no. Again,
the experts thought no was going to win. Not yes. They thought no was going to win.
Interesting.
And the only reason why no didn't win was because turnout was low, because the legislature knew when to put this in front of the voters during an off-election primary. You know?
Let's say there was only like 2 million people that voted.
Right.
It was so bad.
Which is always, the primary right after the presidential election is always the one that's least voted on. The least people show up. Always. So that was a great time for the legislature to put this in there. Now, what gives the right for the legislature to have this kind of power? Let's go back in time to 1975. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times in 1975. We had some good TV shows on in 1975. That's about the only good thing that was going on. Well, Gerald Ford was president back in 75. The Congress of the United States passed a law that was part of the National Emergencies Act that said the 3 ways to terminate a national emergency was by A, the President of the United States could send a message to Congress saying it's terminated. B, the time frame of the emergency declaration runs out, which for the federal government, it's typically a year, but it doesn't have to be. Or the Congress, by joint resolution or concurrent resolution, can void the presidential emergency. Interesting. Gerald Ford actually signed this bill for some unknown, ungodly, stupid reason. He just gave the legislative branch more power than the United States Constitution grants them. Nowhere in the Constitution does it grant the legislature this much power when we're talking about declarations of emergencies. It falls within the executive. Read your Article 2 of the Constitution.
I would say this isn't an emergency, though.
Excuse me?
I would go and say what we're going through is not an emergency.
Okay, but we could agree with why we started was an emergency. COVID. It was an emergency.
Sort of. Maybe for 90 to 200 days, maybe.
Sure, all right, that's fine. But we at least all can agree on it was an emergency when it started.
Yes, it's
okay.
7 months overdue now. So.
Sure, okay. I'll agree with that. So, this law became federal law until it was challenged in front of the U.S. Supreme Court in 1983. In the case of INS versus Chadha, or Chadha, Chadha. Feel free to look it up. The Supreme Court ruled 7-2 that the legislative branch overstepped its bounds. Let me read exactly what it says. Supreme Court in INS versus Chadha held such provisions to be an unconstitutional legislative veto. So they ruled that the legislative branch of the federal government cannot unilaterally end a state of emergency. That power rests with the executive branch. So what did the legislative branch do? They passed another law, which is on the books still today because it was never challenged in front of the Supreme Court, which God only knows how the Supreme Court would rule. What that reads is, the third way now that a disaster declaration can be ended is by the legislative branch voting in favor of it, the president signing it. If the president vetoes it, it could still pass by overriding the veto, which is basically how every law works that goes through Congress, whether it be on the federal level or the state level. So the power grab that the legislative branch of the state of Pennsylvania did was ruled unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1983. Did you know that? No. I didn't know that until I read it. I mean, maybe you did know it. I didn't. I'm not a constitutional scholar. Although I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Ha ha ha. So, the legislative branch knows that this is unconstitutional. How do you make an unconstitutional law constitutional? There's only one way.
Amend the Constitution.
Amend the Constitution. So that's what they did. So, let me go back and let's just say this case never made it to the Supreme Court in 1983. And that was still the law of the land. Okay? Just work with me here for a minute. On March the 18th of 2020, President Trump, under the National Emergencies Act, basically said that COVID is a national emergency. He has the power to do it. He runs the executive branch. All he has to do is send a notice to both chambers of Congress, and we have ourselves a national emergency. So for you people that voted yes for this ballot measure, if that was still the law in the United States Constitution, President Trump could not end this disaster declaration. Who could end it? Nancy, Chucky, Maxine, and on and on and on and on and on. Would you want Nancy Pelosi to be the one who decides whether to end a national emergency or not? Think about that for a minute. I'll give you time to think. Do you want Nancy Pelosi being the person who has the say? Because everybody in her voting block is going to follow her because she's Nancy. When have we ever given the legislature this much power? Never. If you want to argue, well, yeah, the House of Representatives has the power to declare war. True, the House of Representatives has the power to declare war, but the president has to ask for it first. The Congress can't, Nancy Pelosi can't say, oh, I didn't get my shipment of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. We're going to war with Germany. Assuming Haagen-Dazs gets made in Germany. It probably doesn't, but it sounds like it does. Or Nancy Pelosi wakes up one day and her Botox treatment didn't work very well. The Botox treatment, it was made in England. She wants to go to war with England. Do we want the legislature to have that kind of power? No, of course not. But that's what you guys did in the state of Pennsylvania. You now gave the legislature that kind of power. For all my friends in northeastern Pennsylvania, you gave Marty Flynn more power. Think about it. You don't like Marty Flynn, but you sure as hell just gave him more power. I'll guarantee you every Democratic member of the legislature were high-fiving each other Wednesday morning because you just gave them more power. I hate saying what ifs, but what if Tom Wolf was a Republican governor and the state legislature was controlled by Democrats and this law was on the books and Tom Wolf, the Republican governor, wanted to end the crisis and the state legislature said no? Would you have voted yes for this? No, you wouldn't have. And you know you wouldn't have. You let your emotions control your thinking process on this issue. And you let the legislative branch of the state of Pennsylvania have more power than any court would have ever given them, including the United States Supreme Court. Congratulations. God forbid this ever happens again if we have a Republican governor and a democratically led legislature. The power to end, if you're going to have it unilaterally end state of emergencies, must rest with the executive branch. The legislature doesn't control the agencies Does the legislature control FEMA in the state of Pennsylvania? Does the legislature control the National Guard in the state of Pennsylvania? No, the executive branch does. So why are you giving the legislative branch the power now to control them? Think about it. I get it. You don't like Comrade Wolf. I completely understand. I don't like Comrade Wolf. But I don't want to take his power and give it to people we didn't vote for. Did we? I believe in the state of Pennsylvania, I only got to vote for one representative and one senator. One representative, one senator. There's, I believe, 202 representatives in the state of Pennsylvania. Christine, you're watching the show. Did you vote for the representative in Westmoreland County? Did you? Roz, you're watching the show. Did you vote for the representative in Adams County? No, you didn't, did you? Daryl, if you're watching the show, did you vote for the representative of Tioga County? No, you didn't. Tom, you're watching the show. Did you vote for the representative up in Center County? No, you didn't. So why do you want them to have the power? What we all did was vote for the governor. We all voted for this guy or this guy or this guy or this girl. Our candidate didn't win. That sucks. But that's no reason to go stripping the power of the executive branch and giving it arbitrarily, totally unilateral control of this situation to the legislature. Especially when the United States Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional. And I hate to tell you this, my friends. The people that set up the Constitution, whether it be the national Constitution or the state Constitution, and this is where some of you might hate me for saying this, they were smarter than you or me. At least I believe they were smarter than me. I hope you believe they were smarter than you. Well, you just told them on this issue, you're smarter than they are, and that they could go to hell. You let your emotions get the best of your judgment. By the way, I didn't vote on this question. I passed. I took easy.
This thinking process is above my pay grade. I read these questions many times with the brain I was given and would not conclude what you just told us.
And that's why you should have sought out the advice of one non-genetically proven son.
Oh, yeah.
So now we're stuck with it. Because do you think the legislature's ever going to give up this power? No, I don't see the executive branch able to take this to court because it's now part of the Constitution. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I really hope I'm wrong. Do you think Tom Wolf cares that we took power from the executive branch? He's governor for another year and a few months. He doesn't care. He's done. He's all but a lame duck. He doesn't give a rat's ass. But the next guy, which is probably going to be a Republican, because that's how this state goes, except for Tom Corbett, the asshole. Before that, it was 8 years Democrat, 8 years Republican, 8 years Democrat, 8 years Republican, on infinitum.
Because nobody knows how to run the state, so we think the other party will do better.
That's usually how it works in the state of Pennsylvania.
How it works in the country a lot, too.
You drank the Kool-Aid. You took your hatred for Comrade Wolf and it clouded your judgment on this issue. It would be perfectly fine if they wanted to amend the Constitution just like the law is for the United States. The legislature could vote for it. If the governor vetoes it, they could override the veto. That would be perfectly fine and acceptable to somebody like me. But you gave the legislature power over the executive branch of government. The executive branch runs all the agencies of the government. And now you just gave the executive branch power over all these agencies under a declaration of emergency. My friends in NEPA, again, you gave Marty Flynn more power. How could you? How could you give that sea hunt more power? I sound like a parent right now. I sound like everybody's father, I know. Do I not sound like you're like a father right now? You've had to deal with me for 21 years. Do I not sound like a father?
The problem is I don't feel like 98% of people knew any better. They just took the Kool-Aid from whatever representative or senator they follow on Facebook, because I saw posts from both senators, both Democratic and Republican senators. It was just no, yes, yes, or yes, no.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have come up with this conclusion had I researched it like you did, unless I looked up all the big words.
Honestly, though, Christine, not to make myself sound smart or anything, the only thing I researched is what the law is of the United States. I didn't know until last night that the Congress passed a law like they did, and it was tried before the Supreme Court. I didn't know that. Had no clue until I looked it up. All the other stuff I kind of knew already. Because I'm one of these nerds that follows this stuff. Yes, I'm a political nerd. I have glasses. What do you expect?
Like I said, 2 million people voted. So the odds of people voting my age are probably 1%, if that. All we want to do is get rid of this. We don't want this anymore. Throw that out the window. And we just want life to be normal, and we think that is one way life might be normal.
Yeah, but young people didn't come out and vote in this primary.
Obviously.
What got people to vote in this primary was their hatred for Comrade Wolf. That's why yes won this. Now, by the way, question number 2, I voted yes. The one that only allows emergencies to be for no more than 21 days, I voted yes for that. I mean, 21 days could be a little short, but I voted yes. It's just question number 1.
I mean, I went and voted around 2 o'clock.
Yes, you did.
I was the 12th Republican.
Yes.
They handed me a Democrat sheet on accident.
You're not the first person that I've read that. I've heard those words, by the way.
Because they said R12, that's your number, and the guy handed me a Democrat one. I didn't even notice. But I noticed when it was blue and not red. But yeah, I went at 2 o'clock, and I was the 23rd total person in that office.
So you broke the tie.
I did break the tie. The person right behind me that came in, though, was a Democrat.
Ah.
So it was a tie.
Did you try to talk him out of being a Democrat? Did you do your civic duty and try to talk him out of it?
I don't think I could do that while he's got the ballot in his hand.
No, you can. You, not him. You.
Oh.
You're not representing any candidate, so you can talk about that stuff. If you were representing a candidate, no, then you couldn't. It's illegal.
Yeah, I live right in downtown where there's thousands of people in the fall, and 23 people voted before 2 o'clock. Nice. I wonder
what the vote was if you actually voted on campus. Let's face it, you don't vote on campus.
No, since I don't live on campus, I don't vote on campus. For the general election, I did vote on campus.
Did you?
But here, yes, I did. Here, I actually voted at the hub.
I thought your precinct was over by the golf course.
Which is also still part of campus, but then they moved it to the hub.
Oh, okay. So you did vote on campus, actually, then.
And then this one, I voted actually at the fire station right next to us.
Got it.
Because I got a piece of mail like 3 weeks ago saying my precinct was there. So I just went, okay. And didn't know until about 1:30 that it was an election day. So I was like, I should probably go vote.
My ability to understand it is way better than 98% of us. Well, thank you, Christy. But answer me this, guys that are watching. Seriously. If this law was never changed or proven to be unconstitutional, would you be all right with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and AOC and Maxine Waters and the Squad, the Muslim woman, Tahib, being the ones that decide when a national emergency ends? Does that sit all right with you? Because right now, Democrats are in control of Congress, so they would be the only ones that can decide when it ends.
And it would never end.
No, it wouldn't. But that's now what we have in the state of Pennsylvania. So I tell you what, oh, my Republican friends, you better keep the Republicans in the majority in the state house. Because God forbid you don't, and we have to have an emergency declaration. It's going to get awful messy. Awful, awful messy. And I don't mean the soccer player. At least the soccer player got that. You Marty Flynn lovers out there.
Oh, yeah. Sure, there's a lot of them.
Tom, you got amazingly quiet. You had a lot to say yesterday on my feed on Facebook. You're amazingly quiet now. I have a headache now, by the way.
You didn't even yell.
I know, but I feel like I did. That one part I yelled.
Not now, unless we keep an RS in for many years.
Yeah. Yes.
Or R's.
Yes. All right. That's our show. That's all I wanted to talk about tonight. That's it. That's it. So, have a great weekend. Maybe I'll stay on vacation now next week. God only knows. You'll have to wait and see. So, instead of our normal departure, as we usually do, I will say, now back to your regularly scheduled program. See ya.